So, this is our group members. Number 1 is Umi Najwa binti Adilah Nurdi. Metric numbers 076694. Number 2 is Siti Nurain Mardiah binti Muhammad Dahlan. Metric numbers 076628. Number 3 is Nur Dalila binti Kamaruddin. Metric number 078231. And lastly, Nur Anis Irdina binti Nur Azimi. Metric number 078496C. So today, we would like to present a topic related to social symptom factors using 4 articles that we have studied.
Okay. Summary for Article 1 is emphasize that social problems such as drug abuse, gangsterism, promiscuity, and other deviant behavior are becoming increasingly worrying in society. The author argues that this problem cannot be blamed on a single party. Instead, collective responsibility is necessary. The article also suggests that solutions based on Islamic teaching, moral development, and strengthening family institutions are essential to curb this issue. Article 2 is focused on teenagers students that identifies personal traits, family background, and peer influence as major contributors to social problems. Issues such as low self-esteem, lack of parental attention, discover, and negative peer pressure often lead students toward misconduct like bullying, transit, and smoking. These authors stress that the author stresses the importance of support from school, parents, and peers to help shape better student behavior. Summary for Article 3 is examine social problem among university students. The findings show that varying level of religious education, weak family communication, peer influence, unlimited internet access, and poor time management contribute to negative behavior among students. The study also highlights that lecturers play a crucial role in providing guidance, monitoring student well-being, and organizing supportive activities such as counseling and motivational programs. The last article is to discuss the summary of fourth article is to discuss social issue among Felda youth in Gugusan Cini, Pahang. The article explained that diverse community backgrounds, low economic and education level, weak religious grounding, and strong peer influence contribute to rising social problems. The author suggests more spiritual development program, community involvement, and dakwah-based initiative to strengthen moral value within the Felda community. The first article is gejala sosial dalam komuniti, satu sorotan penyelesaian dari perspektif wahyu by Zulkifli Haji Muhammad Yusof. Objective of the article is to emphasize the blaming others for social problems must stop. It does not solve the issue. The second one is to encourage proactive and collective responsibility from all parties in addressing social problems in the community. The third one is to discuss and propose effective solutions to social issues using Islamic teaching and guidance from divine revelation. The second article is Factor Social Problems Among Students by Nur Hasimah Ismail, Dayan Nur Amirah, Awang Harifah, and Marzilah Maksin. The objective of article is to examine the influence of social problems factor on students. Specifically, one is to identify self-background factors that influence social problems among students. 2. Explaining parental factors that influence students' social problems. 3. To elaborating on the kind of peer factor that influence social problem. The third article is gejala sosial di kalangan mahasiswa universiti state the following as its objective. 1. To identify and determine the factor that encourage and influence university students to be involved in social alliance gejala sosial, namely 1. Is the level of religious education. 2. The influence of parents and peers. 3. The influence of the internet. And lastly, the use of the free time by students in institutions of higher learning. The fourth article is gejala sosial di Felda Gugusan Pahang, faktor dan cara mengatasinya. The objective is to describe social problem among youth from an Islamic perspective. The second one is to examine the social life of residents in the Felda Chinese settlement area. 3. To identify the factor and attitude among young people that contribute to social problem as well as to explore ways to overcome this issue.
Now I'm going to present a critic review for 4 articles that discuss social problem from different perspectives. For each article, we will explain the strength and weakness to highlight what the studies contribute and what they lack. Let's begin with Article 1. For Article 1, the main strength is that it uses a unique religious and spiritual perspective to analyze social issue. It also emphasizes collective responsibility involving individual, the community and leaders. The article is relevant to modern issue and stress long-term prevention through strong moral value. However, the weaknesses include the lack of empirical or quantitative data. Also, because it uses a religious perspective, the finding may not apply well in multi-religious societies. The article also does not discuss modern social factors such as poverty, technology, and social structure in depth. Finally, the recommendations are quite idealistic and do not include clear implementation strategies. For Article 2, its strengths include the use of qualitative interview, which give real insight into student experience. The article also highlights the influence of the environment, such as family and peers, in shaping student morality, which is highly relevant to this. On the other hand, the study lacks quantitative data, so the finding cannot be generalized. There may also be respondent bias, since interviews rely on subjective experience. The article provides limited discussion of school, institution, or technological influence. It also tends to assume that all students have similar experience, which may not be accurate. For Article 3, the strength include the focus on university students who are important and high-risk group. The study emphasizes the role of lecturer in guiding and preventing social problems. It also identifies several contributing factors such as religion, peers, and leisure time, and it used a questionnaire survey to collect data. The weaknesses are not defined. The weaknesses are that the findings are only limited to university students, so they cannot be generalized to the wider society. The study also relies on self-report response, which may not reflect actual behavior. Additionally, the analysis of how different factors interact is not very detailed. Although the article gives recommendation, most require institutional action and the steps are not clearly outlined. For Article 4, one of the strengths is that it focuses on a specific community, which makes the finding more realistic and context-rich. The study includes young from diverse backgrounds within the Felda settlement, and it has clear objectives such as identifying factors and proposing solutions. However, the weaknesses include an unclear sample size and the lack of strong quantitative evidence. The findings also cannot be generalized to other areas overgeneralization when explaining the causes of social problems.
I will be sharing a short summary of the suggested improvement for 4 articles that discuss social problems. The first article is by Muhammad Yusuf from 2004. The main suggestion include clarifying the theoretical framework, especially the idea of the relegation perspective. The article would be benefit from a clearer methodology session to show how the analysis was done. On top of that, the structure could be improved, such as how social issues are identified, defined, and concluded. The second article is by Ismail and College from 2022. Suggested improvement include adding more screening and prevention programs for social issues. The language used should be simple and more reader-friendly. The article should also highlight how the finding can influence school policies, counseling program, and practical guidance. The third article is by Hanafi, published in 2021. Improvement include using clearer language or adding visual like infographic to make the content easier to understand. The methodology section need more explanation, especially on how the data was collected. The article would also be stronger with more practical solutions, such as an intervention program, counseling, or co-curricular activities. The final article is by Muhammad Nasir and College from 2014. The abstract need to be clearer so readers can immediately understand the problem, the method, and the solution. The discussion session should be connect the finding to socio-economic, cultural, and the policy factors. The ethical considerations such as community concern and confidentiality should be also highlighted.
Next, I will conclude by summarizing the key findings from all 4 articles that we have analyzed. Firstly, all 4 articles show that social problems happen across many different groups, including the general community, school students, university students, and even FEDA settlers. Even though these groups are different, they all share one important idea, which is social problems do not come from one single cause. Instead of they develop from a combination of individual factors, family issues, peer influence, environment condition, and the strength of moral or religious values. Okay, so next, let me highlight the main finding from each article. From Muhammad Yusuf article, we learned that solutions based on revelation and Islamic teaching provide a moral and spiritual foundation. This means that religious values can guide behavior, prevent misconduct, and help individuals make a better choice. Meanwhile, the studies by Ismail and Hanafi, which focus on students, show that adolescents are strongly shaped by their surroundings, peer pressure, family relationship, media exposure, and religious education all play major roles in influencing their behavior. This tells us that young people's social environment is very important in preventing social issues. In the further context, Muhammad Nasir and his team highlight that youth behavior is affected by socio-economic conditions, diverse community background, and their level of spiritual development. This shows that community structure and lifestyle also influence how youth behave. So, overall, all 4 articles agree on one main conclusion, which is addressing social problems requires a holistic and integrated approach. This means that individuals, families, schools, community leaders, and society must work together. To reduce social issues, we need to strengthen their moral values, improve religious education, provide better support from peers and educators, and carry out community programs. In the end, social problems are not just personal issues, They are collective challenges, and to work a healthier and morally grounded generation, we need continuous effort from all levels of society.